Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and in this country, we have just convicted somebody of the crime of wrongthink. And not only the crime of wrongthink, really the pre-crime of wrongthink, because this was a sitting member of Congress. And because they did not like the way she thought prior to her being voted in by the people, they held a vote today to dump her from 2 committees after having their mockingbirds in the mainstream media industrial complex just pound her to the point where I was seeing memes all week about Jewish space lasers and people cracking jokes and thinking they were funny. So let's back it on up and talk a little bit here. Number one, I have not combed through this woman's past. I haven't done it. I have no idea what she's posted about, what her comments were, what her life was like prior to her being voted in. I know they associated her with Q. Maybe she was a QAnoner. I think that was kind of established. Okay, we all know how I feel about that. We all know that I think that we should have more speech, not less speech. We all know I don't believe in fairy tales, unicorns, and heroes in message boards working with white hats on the underground. Okay, I don't believe in that stuff. There is no Superman. Okay, there are no capes. But I believe we are allowed to think freely and have our own opinions and share them with others. And no one is going to dictate to me what reality is, even when you want to make a reality czar. And let me just remind you, people that are pushing this Johnny nonsense about some kind of reality wizard and someone who's going to tell us exactly what's right and exactly what's wrong are people like Sandy Cortez. And I'm done with the Alexandria Ocasio nonsense. Listen, I told you she was a big old phony and everything she was saying about the Capitol was phony before. Let me say this again. Before it was revealed, she wasn't even in the building. She wasn't even in the building. And you're telling me people like that are the ones that are going to dictate to me what the truth is?
You were murdered. Okay, you obviously weren't murdered because here's your words. Here's your words.
I was murdered.
You were murdered. Okay, you obviously weren't murdered because you're alive and you're basically intact. You weren't murdered, buddy. Here's your words. Here's your words.
I was murdered.
You were murdered. Okay, you obviously weren't murdered because you're alive and you're basically intact. You weren't murdered, buddy.
That's who gets to tell me what reality is. I mean, give me a break. So what we're going to do here is we're going to play her testimony, as basically, again, they committed the act of saying pre-crime to something that isn't even a crime, pre-thought crime. And because of that, you're not allowed to do certain things in the government that you were elected to do. My God, that's where we're at. Guys, $5, $10, $15, it means the world to me. Big donors, couldn't do it without you. I want to remind everybody to thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share. I want to say there was a win on the front of Ford Fisher getting his channel remonetized. Let's just hope that we don't get kicked off. Again, we haven't broke any rules here, okay? So while you can, join the Burmis Brigade on this platform, but make sure you are backed up over at Rockfin. We've just hit over 11,000 followers. And remember, if you are a premium member, you get all the content, all the archives, all the good times. We've backed the channel up because we have to back it on up because we just don't know when a reality wizard's going to come in or Sandy Cortez is going to say she was so in fear for her life, it reminded her of a sexual assault incident. further demeaning actual survivors of sexual assault. And I'm not saying she's not a survivor, but boy, do you demean it when you make up a farcical account of a non-insurrection when you're not even in the building. When you're not even in the building. Back it on up, Sandy. So let's do it. We're going to do it in her own words. We're going to let her speak for herself because the media's never going to show you all this stuff. So again, I don't know much about the woman. I know that she was elected and that she shouldn't be judged on anything that she has done by way of government before she's actually been able to act in government. That to me is insanity, and that should worry everybody.
Great. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Georgia for 10 minutes.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, my Democrat colleagues, Republican colleagues, my district back home in Georgia 14, to the American people, to my mom and dad, and my husband and my children. I've been here for 1 month and a day, and I've gotten to know part of my conference, my Republican colleagues, but not even all of them yet. I haven't gotten to know any of my Democrat colleagues, and I haven't had to have any conversations with any of you to tell you who I am and what I'm about. You only know me by how Media Matters, CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of the mainstream media is portraying me.
And let me just stop it there. Because last night, or it was either last night or earlier today, maybe yesterday, I don't know, I saw Karl Rove on Fox News just tearing this woman apart. Karl Rove, a guy that leaked it to a mainstream journalist who named Rove many years later, that perception is reality and they are the ones that are creating it. I don't want to live in a Rovian, Faucian reality where Sandy Cortez can go. And I mean, people eat it up. I lost subscribers because I dared to call her out on basically equating what she said happened to her at the Capitol. We find out later she wasn't even there, again, with some type of a sexual assault demeaning actual abuse survivors. Yo, don't forget, again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but, you know, this Marilyn Manson story that just keeps getting bigger because there was a welfare check on him, and now somebody else is saying, yeah, he absolutely had a torture and rape room, et cetera, et cetera. I was reporting on that months ago. All right? I'm not trying to demean survivors of sexual assault at all. I'm trying to bring their actual abusers to justice, at least in the court of public opinion. And that doesn't seem to be a priority of these politicians. Seems that they're involved in cover-ups and sometimes in the actions themselves. It's weird.
What you don't know about me is that I'm a very proud wife of almost 25 years, that I'm a mother of 3 children, and I consider being a mother the greatest blessing of my life and the greatest thing that I'll ever achieve. I'm proudly the first person to graduate college in my family, making my parents very happy and proud. I'm also a very successful business owner. We've grown our company from 1 state to 11 states. I'm a very hard worker. I've always paid my taxes. I've never been arrested. I've never done drugs, but I've gotten a few speeding tickets in my day. What you need to know about me is I'm a very regular American, just like
And let me say this, now that it froze for a
the
second.
people I represent in my district and most people across the
To say that she can't be on education and labor or budget committees, again, because of wrongthink prior to her being elected, is unacceptable to me. It's just crazy to me.
country. I never, ever considered to run for Congress or even get involved in politics. As a matter of fact, I wasn't a political person until I found a candidate that I really liked, and his name is Donald J. Trump when he ran for president. To me, he was someone I could relate to, someone that I enjoyed his plain talk, not the offensive things, but just the way he talked normally. And I thought, finally, maybe this is someone that will do something about the things that deeply bother me, like the fact that we're so deeply in debt, that our country has murdered over 62 million people in the womb. The fact that our borders are open and some of my friends have had their children murdered by illegal aliens. Or perhaps that maybe we can stop sending our sons and daughters to fight in foreign wars and be used as the world's police, basically.
You know, let me just make a point about the foreign wars, because the media is hyping up that he's now going to stop offensive strikes in Yemen in conjunction with, the Saudi Arabian arms deal. So how many of these are actually going to be offensive? Meanwhile, he's already sent troops back into Syria, and it doesn't look like people are leaving Afghanistan. So, again, I don't have to agree with everything this woman says or does, but she should certainly have the right to say it. And she should certainly have the right, again, to sit on these committees. Because if you think she's any more demonic or crazy or beholden to some cause than first of all, she doesn't seem beholden to predator class causes to me. All right? She seems pretty independent. I'm not sure. I don't know much about her. But I haven't disagreed with much of what she's heard. But if you think that she's, any worse than some of the monsters that are in Congress, than Sandy, Cortez, come on now. Come on now. Oh, I keep hitting that button, thinking it's where.
Or maybe that our government would stand up for our American businesses and our American jobs and make the American people and the American taxpayers their focus.
Sorry, guys. This is off the C-SPAN site.
These are the things that I care about deeply. So when we elected President Trump, and then I started seeing things in the news that didn't make sense to me, like Russian collusion, which are conspiracy theories also, and have been proven so. These things bothered me deeply. And
they're not even really conspiracy theories, right? Those are lies. That's what those were. Those were straight up now proven lies that were thoroughly investigated by authoritative sources and were never able to come into fruition because they were lies. So I think that actually demeans the term conspiracy theory, by the way.
And I realized just watching CNN or Fox News, I may not find the truth. And so what I did is I started looking up things on the internet, asking questions like most people do every day. Use Google. And I stumbled across something.
Oh, she's stumbling, and so is the feed.
And this was at the end of 2017 called QAnon. Well, these posts were mainly about this Russian collusion information. A lot of it was some of what I would see on the news at night. And I got very interested in it. So I posted about it on Facebook. I read about it. I talked about it. I asked questions about it. And then more information came from it. But you see, here's the problem. Throughout 2018, because I was upset about things and didn't trust the government, really, because the people here weren't doing the things that I thought they should be doing for.
At least she's having her mea culpa moments talking about it.
The things that I just told you I cared about. And I want you to know, a lot of Americans don't trust our government, and that's sad. The problem with that is, though, is I was allowed to believe things that weren't true, and I would ask questions about them and talk about them. And that is absolutely what I regret. Because if it weren't for the Facebook post and comments that I liked in 2018, I wouldn't be standing here today, and you couldn't point a finger and accuse me of anything wrong, because I've lived a very good life that I'm proud of, my family's proud of.
Again, she's kind of like saying, hey.
My husband's proud of, my children are proud of, and that's what my district elected me for. So later in 2018, when I started finding misinformation, lies, things that were not true in these QAnon posts, I stopped believing it. And I want to tell you, any source, and I say this to everyone, any source of information that is a mix of truth and a mix of lies is dangerous, no matter what it is saying, what party it is helping, anything or any country it's about. It's dangerous. And these are the things that happen on the left and the right. And it is a true problem in our country. So I walked away from those things, and I decided I'm going to do what I've done all my life. I'm going to work hard and try to solve the problems that I'm upset about. So I started getting involved in politics. You see, school shootings are absolutely real. And every child that is lost, those families mourn it. I understand how terrible it is because when I was 16 years old in 11th grade, my school was a gun-free school zone. And
So again, she's talking about the school
one
shooting
of my
thing.
schoolmates brought guns to school and took our entire school hostage. And that happened right down the hall from my classroom. I know the fear that David Hogg had that day. I know the fear that these kids have. And this is why, and I say this sincerely with all my heart, because I love our kids, every single one of your children, all of our children. I truly believe that children at school should never be left unprotected. I believe just as protected as we were with 30,000 National Guardsmen. Our children are
Well, I don't want to militarize the schools, I can
resource.
tell you that.
I also want to tell you 9/11 absolutely happened. I remember that day crying all day long watching it on the news. And it's a tragedy for anyone to say it didn't happen. And so that I definitely want to tell you, I do not believe that it's fake. I also want to tell you that we've got to do better.
Well, again, I was accused of being a 9/11 denier. It didn't happen, and they always try to equate those things, and people still try to bring up, like, the Pentagon. Like, I haven't, again, talked about the Pentagon for 15 plus years, and we didn't make loose change final cut, and we didn't show every piece of evidence, and we didn't go to D.C., just like Shanksville, like we didn't go to Pennsylvania. It's ridiculous. So, you know what? Again, just think about this. If they're going through her social media, they have all of our social media. Been talking about this for years. They got profiles on everybody. And again, she's basically been convicted now of pre-crime for a crime that never existed. No budget and education labor for you. No committees for you. You committed thought crimes and wrongthink.
You see, big media companies can take teeny tiny pieces of words that
Come on, C-SPAN. Thumbs the video
I've
up, by the
said,
way.
that you have said, any of us, and can portray us into someone that we're not. And that is wrong. Cancel culture is a real thing. It is very real. And when big tech companies like Twitter, you can scroll through and see where someone may have retweeted porn, this is a problem. This is a terrible, terrible thing. But yet, when I say that I absolutely believe with all my heart that God's creation is He created them male and female, and that
Talking about God.
should not be denied, when I am censored for saying those type of things, that is wrong. You see, here's the real situation. I decided to run for Congress because I wanted to help our country. I want Americans to have our American dream. I want to protect our freedoms. This is what I ran for Congress on. I never once said during my entire campaign, QAnon. I never once said any of the things that I am being accused of today during my campaign. I never said any of these things since I have been
A member of Congress?
elected for Congress. These were words of the past, and these things do not represent me. They do not represent my district, and they do not represent my values. Here's what I can tell you. I am beyond grateful for this opportunity, and I'll tell you why. I believe in God with all my heart, and I'm so grateful to be humbled, to be reminded that I'm a sinner and that Jesus died on the cross to forgive me for my sins. And this is something that I absolutely rejoice in today to tell you all. And I think it's important.
You know what? At least, being a hardcore Christian, she went hardcore.
Important for all of us to remember, none of us are perfect. None of us are. And none of us can even come close to earning our way into heaven just by our acts and our works. But it's only through the grace of God. And this is why I will tell you, as a member of this Congress, the 117th Congress, I am a passionate person. I'm a competitor. I'm a fighter. I will work with you for good things for the people of this country. But the things I will not stand for is abortion. I think it's the worst thing.
Again, she's going hardcore, at least on her beliefs. At least she's standing for it.
Ever committed. And if we are to say in God we trust, how do we murder God's creation in the womb? Another thing I will say to this body is I want to work with all of you for our people. It should be America first always, always, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if this Congress is to tolerate members that condone riots that have hurt American people, attacked police officers, occupied federal property, burned businesses and cities, but yet wants to condemn me and crucify me in the public square.
I mean, again, I got to respect it.
Words that I said and I regret a few years ago, then I think we are in a real big problem, a very big problem. What shall we do as Americans? Shall we stay divided like this? Will we allow the media that is just as guilty as QAnon
Worse.
of presenting truth and lies
Worse.
to divide us?
Worse.
Will we allow ourselves to be addicted to hate and hating one another? I hope not, because that's not the future I want for my children, and it's not the future I want for any of your children. I yield.
Well, that's it right there. So again, I don't have to agree with everything she said. I'm glad she stood up for her values, man. And she's right. I mean, compared to QAnon, the mainstream media has been doing it for decades. QAnon just feeds into this mainstream narrative that they want, where they get to say whatever they want and they get to create reality and say, ridiculous things like Sandy Cortez says. Right, Sandy?
Here's your words. Here's your words.
I was murdered.
You were murdered. Okay, you obviously weren't murdered because you're alive and you're basically intact. You weren't murdered, buddy.
Oh, boy. So, folks, there it is. Thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share. Again, this is dangerous. It's not even a crime what she did. She's been convicted basically of pre-crime, and already they want to throw her out. They want to throw her out. And again, it's ridiculous. It's not a right or left issue to me. Go get fundings down below. So are a bunch of other links. I got some crypto the other day. Someone sent me some Bitcoin. Thank you so much. Ethereum on fire, hitting all-time highs. Thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share while we're still on YouTube, because who knows how long. Shout out to Graham Elwood for having me on the show yesterday, and shout out to all the Rockfinners out there. Make sure to check out the exclusives live and free. Make that free account, and if you do go full premium, thank you so much. And you get everybody's premium content. Graham Elwood, the Convo Couch, they were just demonetized. Whitney Webb, Jimmy Dore, and so many others. And we backed it all up on Odyssey. You saw it for yourself right there, guys. Yes, I use the VLC media player. Correct. Guys, I love you. I'll see you on the flip.